Hi guys, so this is reading number 2 of the night, and it's possible that I will upload it tomorrow instead of today. But I wanted to follow through with the theme I had started in the earlier reading about the treason situation and the investigation, as well as this format that I'm experimenting with. I think this is going to be permanent, of course, but now I've started experimenting with changing the spread and making readings more modular, because now that we've gone into more details about the investigation and very specific details, I think we know a lot of the stories. And a lot of the readings that I'm doing now, especially obviously the one with Trump and now this one, I've done before. It's just an updated version or more in-depth or more specific look into a person or a question. Okay, and I'm doing Michael Flynn because he's been on the news a lot last week because he supposedly cut a deal with Mueller. And I remember that in the first reading I had done, I felt like he hadn't, for some reason. And so I still have all these questions. I wanted to know, has anything changed? And this reading is not like the one I just did on Trump, because it's not as clear. Like, it's not as obvious, okay? So, and there's 6 questions within the question. So the question is, has Michael Flynn worked out a plea deal with Mueller as of today? And by the way, the reason to say Mueller like this is because a long time ago I learned German, even when I was living in Brazil. And then here I studied German for a long time. So in German, the MU is Müller. So in a way, it's Mueller, like Miller, closer to Miller than Mueller, than how we say Müller. It's a umlaut situation. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's too much information. Okay. Just why I always mispronounce certain things. Okay. Anyway, so going back to the question, has Flynn worked out a plea deal as of today? Because the news said that he had already worked out a deal and so forth. So we don't know, right? There's just too much detail, and I want to know a more specific answer. So if we look at the first mini question within the question, which is positions 1 and 2, has Flynn worked out a deal with Mueller? We have the Knight of Pentacles upside down. We have the book, The Secret, right? We have very interesting card, the Hangman upside down, and we have the Rider. So to me, if we start with the Lenormand, because we have to remember that the Lenormand sits above the tarot in the readings that I do in terms of meaning hierarchy. So whatever the Lenormand says will override anything suggested by the tarot. The tarot is a bit like the background. Okay, so it's whatever is in the background, but the real meaning and the event is the smaller parts, the Lenormand. So basically, we have a secret news. Okay, so what are the news? The news is probably about some regular activity, because the Knight of Pentacles is about following the rules strictly, and then we have the Hangman upside down, which means entanglements. I've talked about this card quite a bit, and I think it's very apt to Flynn's situation, which is really, we know that, everybody knows that he's super heavily entangled in this. He has so many issues, so many problems. He's been involved in so many of these, we can't even count. We don't even know how many things, from kidnapping some Turkish national who's a U.S. permanent resident, trying to kidnap, to accepting money for this quasi-kidnap. I mean, there's so many things. He worked for Cambridge Analytica. He talk to the Russians before anyway. Also, just too many things we don't even know, right? There's no way of knowing until the whole thing comes out. So just thinking about that, in a way, the feeling that I get about this though is that this logical pursuit, this very regular, like clockwork, Knight of Pentacles upside down, to me tells me about Mueller's strategy more than it tells me about Flynn. So it seems that in secret, the prosecution is working very diligently, very regularly to uncover all these entanglements, right? And is making news or about to make news about these secret things. So in a way, it's not that I think that the deal is false, but something tells me that it's almost like he was forced to make this public quasi announcement that he has made a deal. Because in reality, what it's showing here is that if we look at just the tarot 1 and 2, we have very, very regular movement like clockwork next to entanglement. So what I feel here is that there's a lot of pressure on him because the entanglements are increasingly revealed. It does not show me that he's stalking. It doesn't show me that he's voluntarily doing something. It, to me, feels like a movement from the prosecution, not from him. Obviously, he was only going to talk or make a deal if there's a lot of pressure, but I don't feel that it's something that he's considering very thoroughly. It's just like he's really being pushed to the ground to do as much as he possibly can. Like he's trying to resist, I think. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I flipped. And now I want to know. He's not. It's not the case. And this is in a way now it's reminding me of the reading I had done before. And you see, there's 2 pages, by the way. There's another, there will be 12. So it's 12 card positions total. But next page, you'll see why. I think this, now I'm reminded of that reading I did first. I haven't looked at it. I'll try to link at the end of the video why I think there's something there still that's not super worked out. Okay. So anyway, so then the second row is Willie. That's funny. Will Flynn give Mueller everything Mueller wants? So this is a pretty interesting set, a combination. So the fox and the snake, that's tough, right? It's like you can't trust anybody. We have the sun, which in a way means shedding light onto all the shady deals, right? He's shedding light into shady deals, and the sun is upright. It's very clearly doing that here. And we have the weird thing is that position 4, the Page of Swords there, tells me that in his mind, because it's very much a card of the mind, a card of ideas, he's a snake still. He is not, like, that's what I said before. I don't think he really is doing this out of the good, not out of the good of his heart, but I think I still believe that he is, how do you say it? He's still, I don't think he really, you know that term that I learned, I'm sure have all learned so much ever since this investigation started. There's so much that we didn't know. One thing I learned, I remember recently, was the term guilt consciousness. So that's when a person knows and is aware and is always trying to deny the things they've done. So I feel like in a way, he's not, it's like his mind, it's like it tells him that he hasn't done anything wrong. Like he's collaborating for survival reasons, but I don't think he was really converted in a way. So and then, but then we have to remember that those people like Mueller, Mr. Mueller, they have the habit of dealing with those kinds of people who are shady and not trustworthy, and somehow they manage to extract whatever they need from them. They are able to negotiate with them and get what they want. So it's possible that this is the situation here. Okay, and like I said, it feels like it's a lot of pressure. It's not the kind of thing where the person's like, boom, here's what you need. It's more of a, survival mechanism in Michael Flynn's mind. That's what I feel like. Okay. So here, and then the last row, 5 and 6, we have, has Flynn committed treason against the USA? I believe he has, for several reasons. Because if he has done a fifth of the things he's apparently has been doing, that enough is reason, I think. Right? He was negotiating with Turkey while he was head of, I'm sorry, it's national security. So anyway, he was doing things that would put people in prison, because that to me is treason. So here it's saying King of Swords upside down and the anchor. King of Swords is the upside down is the card of the American Psycho, the psychopath, the cold psychopath who's manipulative. So I think, and because he has the anchor card has a lot to do with timing, and it also can indicate career. So in a way, I feel like he was doing something wrong. He was acting in this sort of manipulative, persuasive manner, and he was tasked with this. This was his job in a way. And then next to it, we have the Empress upside down and the Mountain. And I've talked about the Empress upside down in the context of these readings before, where it means, where I remember talking about this in terms of the USA reputation. And we have the Empress, because the USA is to be, the greatest country in the world, so wealthy, so powerful. The Empress is, in a way, if you say that power is the emperor, where it's the person who has control, who has leadership, the Empress is the material means that demonstrate that leadership in a good way, right? It could be the woman who has lots of, it's abundance on a larger scale. But here we have it upside down, and we have the Mountain. So in a way, this is like one of those, it's hard to read this, but that's what it's saying. It's saying committed to creating obstacles and hardships for the Empress, which would be the reputation of the US, right? So he's committed to creating opposition and obstacles that will turn the USA down from being voluptuous, abundant, to poor and haggard. In a way, that's what I interpret from looking at that. Sad, right? So in a way, it's not showing that the super hardcore cards here in the Treason, but it's showing his role in a way as a agent of deceit, right? The kind of sophisticated levels of deceit, and it shows that he's aware that, especially, actually, I should never forget this. He's the highest ranking person who was in the Trump administration, right? Who, in the sense of, he's worked in the government, he's worked in the military, he knows what's right and what's wrong. Sorry, I don't believe that he's like some innocent person who just lost his mind and was collaborating with the Russians or Turkey, whatever. I don't know what it is, but you know what I'm saying? He knows what the consequences, what he has to know. He must have known what the consequences of what he's doing, what he was doing were. Okay, granted, it's possible that they got him through his hatred for Obama because he was fired and so forth. And he's a little crazy, but at the same time, looking at those cards, it's like, dude, we fucked up. The fucked up is to say it nicely. He really, it looks like he did commit treason. So then I created the second. There were just several questions related to this. Okay, to this question of his collaboration with Mueller and the consequences. So on the second page, I have the top. I have the question: how will Flynn's collaboration impact the investigation overall? And that's pretty interesting, because it's showing that the Page of Wands is the card of pure beginning energy. So it's like suddenly people become alert. And you have the card of aggression, whip, aggression, violence, combative, shouting, stuff like that. And we have the birds, which means that people suddenly woke up and started infighting, increased majorly. and there's people talking, and so it's interesting because you have number 8 is the 8 of Pentacles, which is a card of working diligently towards one goal. And in a way, you could say that that's the prosecution. They are working very diligently to make people talk. And I feel like that's probably their goal, to throw one against the other, to make people nervous and angry. So it just shows a lot of angry conversations and the pursuit of one focus, the pursuit of one goal, working diligently towards that goal, and kind of giving them, a little buzz, a little wake up. The position 7 here, the Page of Pentacles. So that's what's going to do to the investigation overall. It's going to make people want to talk. Okay, create a lot of conversation among them, I think. And now this is probably the second row on the second page. I'd say the most consequential row in all of them. And the question is, what will be the consequences of this collaboration to Trump? Whether or not he follows, because this is what I'm thinking, okay, and I'll show you, this is what I think it's still interesting. I have a feeling that in some way, even if it's true that he is the Flynn lawyer, cut contact with Trump's, they're trying to negotiate. I don't feel that it is certain, maybe not yet, or something like that. Okay, just something about it tells me it's not yet completely worked out. But if we look at 9 and 10, it's fatal to Trump. Okay, because they have a repetition of something that appeared in Trump's zone. We have the judgment overturned again, and we have the final ending card. So basically, the tarot alone is saying the judgment overturned leads to a painful ending, right? So it is found guilty in some way, and that leads to a painful ending. And then we have the Lenormands, which is interesting. The Clouds is a card of muddled and unclear. And in a way, if we have the judgment, in a way we have the truth, right? So we remove the cloud. And what is the cloud linked to? It links to the ring, to the deal. So what I think it means is that Flynn will shed light into the deal, into Trump's deal. And if it was hidden before, it no longer is going to be hidden anymore. Okay, because the ring showed up for Trump also in the reading right before this one, where this becomes knowledge about his deal. There is some sort of deal. And I'm thinking, because then I'm looking, I'm not going to look at the column right now. Let me just finish what I'm discussing here about the second row. What will be the consequences of this collaboration to Trump? Yeah, it's an ending to him. It really looks very clear that, yeah, these two cards, even though I've said before, the tarot is the emotional, is the background. These two cards, those kinds of situations when those types of cards appear together, you can't deny it. It's sending a very clear message, okay? And even though the cards on top of it, I'm not saying, oh, this is what's going to happen. It's giving us the information about whatever Flynn has that relates to Trump. And that's what I think it is, the deal. Clarity, lack of clarity, then clarity about this deal, okay? And then we have, at the very bottom, will Flynn go to prison regardless of deal? Whether or not this deal comes through, whatever the circumstances are, will he go to prison? And the numbers are 11 and 12. And it's interesting because what it's showing here, and this is why I said, something about this tells me that the whole collaboration, if indeed it's happening, and that's what it looks like, right? It is happening to a degree. It's not heartfelt, okay? Because you'll see the last card is the heart, and the heart underneath it has the 6 of Cups upside down, which means very clinging to old-fashioned, to the past, not wanting to let go of the past, and very old-fashioned ideas. So it shows that he is very committed to these ideas still. His heart, and what's next to the heart? The lady. So his heart is with the lady, which has meant here Russia. And underneath the lady, we have Four of Pentacles, which is like holding on to something you have, not taking any risks. So it's telling me, and I think it's clear to everybody, that you have maintaining what you have. It could be belief, right? In a way, it's like right next to heart. Anyway, so he's maintaining whatever he has with Russia, and he's clinging on to these very old-fashioned ideas. And this card came up for people like John Kelly, and I think some of the racist, like overtly racist ideologues, right? I think maybe Bannon and Jeff Sessions, something like that. It's a card of nostalgia ideas and romanticizing a past that never existed. So to me, it says, yes, he will go to prison because he is committed. He, at heart, he believes in his ideas. At heart, he really believes, he actually believes all the propaganda stuff, and he's clinging to it. He's attached himself to that other side, and that's that. And I think the situation of the deal here, to me, very clearly shows that if he's doing it out of desperation. He's not doing it because he suddenly had a change of heart, or he wants to savage his, like, for example, the readings I've done about Jeff Sessions, in spite of his cowardice, I think, and the whole thing that the whole perjury thing, when push comes to shove, he's going to be like, whoa, I have a career. I may have fucked up before, but I'm not going to let it drown for this. He has that, it's crazy to say, right, at this administration, that he has his head on his shoulders, but I think that's what it is in comparison to Flynn, who is only doing this out of survival, because at heart, he doesn't care about. His heart is in the other side, right? It's in the fake nostalgic society, whatever that he wants, and he's clinging to the Russian ideology, whatever that is. What do we know, right, about this now? So that's why I think he is going to prison, because they are going to prove that no matter what, he's still connected to them in some way or other. And if the crimes are as serious as they appear to be from our position, I think he can be spared the death penalty if he cuts a deal, but I don't understand how he could just not go to prison. He still has to go to prison in some way, and if he's not showing serious acknowledgement of the severity of the crimes he has committed, then it will be difficult for him to get in, like, a lot more than that. And I think, right, I don't think that these crimes, you can just, when people get plea deals, they get their sentences are lessened, but they don't go away. You don't just, oh, sorry, bye, man, walk away, right? It's just hard to imagine that those things are true, because it looks like they are true. So they could just get to the government and just sell out everything like this. Can you imagine? It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine that the pettiness and the naivete. He's the one person who can't claim naivete because he knows what he's doing, right? He has a lifelong career in military intelligence, right? But it's hard to believe it. It's not hard to believe, because by now anything is possible, as we have seen. But when you think about it, it's like, wow, whoa, this is what we're dealing with. You know what I mean? So that's that, guys. All right. Thanks for watching. Okay. And I'm thinking, and I don't know yet, I have not made up my mind. I may post this video today, and I wonder, because I feel it's connected, and I wonder if something's going to happen. It's going to come out tomorrow or something like that. So I just feel like I want to post it, and I may not post anything tomorrow. Okay. Just so it's 2 videos today and maybe 0 tomorrow. All right. Okay, well, thanks for watching and have a good week. Bye.